Hello, my name is Mr. Fallen, and today we're going to be looking at Module 5, Section 10.1, Linear Equations of One Variable. This video we'll be looking at problems 1 through 7. All right, so the first problem on this homework assignment is x minus 6 equals 4. All right, so we're looking for a number that when we subtract 6, the answer will come out as 4. And you could probably guess by just thinking about it for a moment that 10 is the number we're looking for. 10 minus 6 would equal 4. So the solution here is going to be x equals 10. That's the number I'd want to plug in to make this true. And that would be fine while the equations are simple enough if you wanted to try to guess what the answer is. But these equations are going to get more complicated as we go. So we don't want to waste our time trying to guess what the answer might be, especially for the more difficult equations. What we want to do is learn how to manipulate this equation into telling us what the answer is. And the way we're going to accomplish that is to make some alterations so that x ends up by itself. I want to get this variable all alone. Once it's by itself, then the equation will simply tell me what the answer is. It'll tell me x is equal to blank. So the way we get x by itself in this case is to get rid of the minus 6. And the way you get rid of the minus 6 is by doing the opposite operation. The opposite of subtracting 6 would be to add 6. So if I add 6 to the negative 6, those are going to cancel each other out, and I will be left with x all by itself. But if I do this to the left-hand side, it turns out with equations, you're going to have to do the same thing to the right-hand side of the equation. It's like a balance. So if you're going to make alterations to the left-hand side, you have to make the same alterations to the right-hand side. Otherwise, you don't end up with the solution to the equation. So if I add 6 to the left-hand side, I got to also add 6 to the right-hand side. 4 plus 6 gives me 10. And we get the answer that we determined earlier. Right, but this time we got the equation to tell us the answer rather than us having to guess what it was. All right, so you type 10 into that box and you're good to go. You don't want to type the x equals to. It's asking for the solution set, so you just type in the numbers here. And for this section, we should only ever get one solution at a time, so you just type in the one solution that you get there. If there's more than one, you'd separate them with commas. All right, let's take a look at question number 2. All right. We have z minus 27. Let's write it down here. Z minus 27 is equal to negative 12. Right, same situation. Right, we want to get this variable by itself, so I don't want to have to guess what the answer is. I'll let the equation tell me the answer. And the way I'll get the equation to tell me the answer is to get z by itself on the left-hand side of the equation, which means I need to get rid of the minus 27 here by adding 27. I'll do the inverse operation. The reverse of minusing 27 would be to add 27. If I do that to the left-hand side, I must do the same thing to the right-hand side. Right. The 27s will cancel each other out, so we'll only have z on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we have negative 12 plus 27, which will be positive 15. All right, so that problem worked in a very similar fashion, as will this next problem. So I happen to look ahead here and see that we end up getting the same thing here. Pretty much the same situation. All right, so we have r plus 8 equals 17. I want to get r by itself, so I'm going to stop circling it. I just remember that's our goal. We want to get r by itself. To do that, we'll reverse or cancel out the plus 8 by subtracting 8. Those will cancel each other out. To keep it balanced out so that we get the solution to the equation, we must do the same thing to the right-hand side. And so we end up getting r by itself equals 17 minus 8, which is 9. All right. Let's take a look at the next one. Let's see, we might get to, eventually, hopefully we'll get an equation that does something a little bit different than that. So let's see here. Nope, same kind of problem. So this is going to work in the same way. We have t plus 24 equals 16. So same idea. We want to get t by itself. To do that, we need to cancel out the plus 24 by subtracting 24. If we do that to the left-hand side, we have to do the same thing to the right-hand side. Otherwise, the answer we get won't be the right answer. All right. So we'll be left with t by itself over here on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, 16 minus 24 gives me negative 8. So be careful with those negative signs. All right. Let's take a look at the next one, number 5. All right. Oh, this is something different. So here we have some fractions, but the approach to this problem will not change. So even though we have fractions here, we can still handle this problem in the same way. We just have to take our time with the fractions. All right, so same idea. To solve the equation, to get the solution, we want to get x by itself on the left-hand side, which means the plus 10's got to go. And the way I'll get rid of the plus 10 is, I said plus 10, the plus 1/10 has to go. The way I get rid of the plus 1/10 is to subtract 1/10. That'll cancel it out, and just like in the previous problems, we'll get x by itself on the left-hand side. If we subtract 1/10 from the left-hand side, we have to subtract 1/10 from the right-hand side. So this is what we need to do over here. And here's where we're going to get slowed down, and this problem is going to take a little bit more time. I need to subtract these two fractions. In order to do that, I have to have a common denominator. So we'll have to take our time to find this common denominator. The denominators we currently have are 5 and 10. I want to make them the same. And so 10 is the common denominator because I already have this denominator as a 10. And I can make this denominator a 10 by multiplying by 5. Sorry, by multiplying by 2. So 5 times 2 is going to give me 10. I'll do the same thing to the top, multiply by 2. Again, because we have to keep that fraction balanced out so we don't change the value of the fraction. And this is going to give us the common denominator of 10. Right? So your common denominator is a number that both denominators can be made to equal. This denominator was already equal to 10. I can make this denominator equal 10 by multiplying by 2. All right, so we're going to end up with, I'll just write the results down here, 4 times 2, which is 8 over 10, and it's going to be negative because it started off that way, minus this fraction, 1 over 10, which we didn't have to even change. So now that we have a common denominator, the denominator will stay the same. It'll stay 10, and on the bottom we'll have negative 8 minus 1, right? So make sure you keep the negative with that. Negative 8 minus 1, which will be negative 9. And so we get negative 9 over 10 as our solution. All right, so that was definitely a little more interesting than the previous problems. And that probably means we're about to head to another set of problems, because this is sort of the end of that set, because that's the more challenging version of that problem. So I'm guessing that the next problem will be something different. I could be wrong though. Let's see. So number 6. Same thing, but with decimal numbers. So I was wrong. Let's take a look at this. We have x minus 7.3 equals negative 3.9. So really nothing different about this problem than the ones we've done so far. We want to get x by itself. I'm sorry to keep repeating myself, but I just want to make sure it's clear on every single problem what to do. We will get x by itself by getting rid of the minus 7.3. And the way we get rid of that is by reversing that operation. And to reverse a minus, we will add. So we will add 7.3 to cancel that out. We do the same thing to the right-hand side of the equation. So we end up with, we copy the x down because we didn't do anything to that. The 7.3's cancel out. And on the right-hand side, we get negative 3.9 plus 7.3. Now, I don't have a calculator on me, and I'm not the best at doing arithmetic in my head, but what I'm going to do here is just think of this as 4, negative 4. I know 7 minus 4 would be 3, but I was 0.1 off from 4, so to make up that difference, I will add that 0.1 to this, and so it'll be 0.4 instead of 0.3. So it's going to be 3.4. I don't know if that made sense or not, but that's how I come up with the answer in that case. I kind of add the 0.1 here, but but then I have to add it here as well, I guess, to balance it out. Maybe that's a good way to think of it. So it's going to be 4.0, and this will be 7.4. All right, so we get 3.4 positive in this case. All right, let's take a look at that last example here. Get rid of that. And same kind of problem. All right, so unfortunately, we didn't get to see anything different in this video, but maybe in the next video, we'll start looking at some other kinds of problems here. So we have m plus 12.3 equals negative 4.8. Same thing, right? We want to get m by itself. We will do that by negating the adding of 12.3. The way we negate that is by subtracting 12.3. But if we do that to the left-hand side, we have to do the same thing to the right-hand side. We'll get m by itself on the left-hand side. Here they're both negative, so they'll actually add together, and the result will be negative. So adding, this will be a little bit easier. 8 plus 3 would be 11, so I'll put a 1 there, carry the 1 over. And we'll have 4 plus 2, which is 6. Add the 1, so we get 7. And nothing carried over, so this 1 will just get copied down. Decimals stay in the same spot, and so we get negative 17.1. All right, that's going to do it for this video. We will look at the next 7 problems in the next video.